Welcome to 284 Media's Just for the Record. I am Jhaka Wooding, and today I am joined by Parliamentary Representative for the 2nd District and Minister for Natural Resources and Labour, Honourable Melvin Turnbull, who is seeking a 3rd consecutive term in office in this upcoming general election. We get into those discussions after a quick word from our sponsors. Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
There are many ways to enjoy life, like so many ways to count on Popular.
Rashford made it. Manchester United have come from behind to lead.
At home or on the go, watch CCT Live. Download our app and carry your favorite TV shows, news, or live sports anywhere you go. Visit cctbvi.com/live, select your package, and tune in.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. And Honourable Turnbull, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Jhaka. It is a pleasure to be here, and I want to say good day to the people of the Virgin Islands, to the listening public. It is a pleasure.
All right. Of course, this interview has everything to do with getting to know you as a candidate and getting some answers to the questions that the people want to know. So I hope you're ready for that. How about you start us off by walking me through your professional career and tell me how this led you to politics?
Well, Jhaka, I believe if I follow my life and what I want to do, I believe politics would be the absolute last thing that I thought I would be doing. But I realized that my life follows God's plan, and whatever He has plans for my life, that's where I walk according to those steps. My background is in business management, a focus on finance, marketing, and sales. I spent my professional career right out of college with AIG, American International Group, which is a Fortune 100 company, and I became quickly associate manager in insurance for life, health, and variable annuities. Relocated back to the BVI and ran the financial services firm, MWM Financial Services, for 8.5 years before I resigned from that job and went full-time into youth mentorship from a program that my brother and I founded, Project Lionheart, which mentored young children between the ages of 6 and 18 years old. We did that for about 3.5 years before somebody said to me, I think you should be in politics because you have a passion for young people. You have the gift that you touch people and you reach out to people and you're genuine and authentic. And I actually ran from that thought for a long time. But I believe it was a senior lady in the community who said to me, you know what you're supposed to be doing. We need somebody like you who has a voice, who will speak up for the young people and speak up for those that are fortunate. So I made a decision in 2014 exactly to join and enter the political arena. And I've been here, I believe, representing the people of the 2nd District since June 8th of 2015, re-elected again on February 23rd of 2019. The people of the 2nd District has again put their trust in me, and I am asking them once again to continue to stick with me, continue to stick with somebody that represents their voice, their concerns, but more so is fixed on improving the territory, developing our young people, and gleaning from the wealth of knowledge from our seniors and from those that came and paved the way before us.
All right. Now, having lived such a busy, impactful life, I mean, you've mentioned so much that you've done. What would you say is your greatest achievement so far?
Well, I believe my greatest achievement would have to be my daughter, and being married now to my wife for 16 years. My daughter, Micaiah, is my heart. That's my life. She's now 13 years old. She's been involved in politics with me from the time she was 4 years old. But watching her develop, watching her grow, and for me, it is about preparing a path for her that could be better than when I had. My parents sacrificed for me, and I think for me, it is doing the same for her, giving her a limitless possibilities so she can achieve anything that she puts her mind to. But not just Micaiah, not just my daughter, but all children in the BVI. So my greatest achievement will be able to share my life, unedited life, to young people so that they can see my mistakes, they can see some of the things that I've been able to do successfully, and hopefully that they could take one or two of those examples and propel themselves into greatness. Because I believe at the end of the day, my life and how I treat young people now will determine what will happen to me and us as a generation in the future.
Now, having completed 2 consecutive terms in office, some would consider you a seasoned politician. Now, with that term, there comes a lot of stereotypes. You hear people say politicians are liars, they call them thieves, they say people get into leadership for personal benefits. What are your views on those statements?
Well, my views is not what you are called, is what you answer to. And that's something I've been saying more recently, because you get called a lot of names, but if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you're about, authenticity is important to me. And I believe I try my best to honor my word. So if I give you my word and I tell people more often than not, no is also an answer. Sometimes you expect to be hearing all the time, yes, 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 or I'll do my best to do it. But sometimes no is an answer too. So in this overall development of this political arena, what I've learned to do is appreciate people, appreciate where people come from here, and listen to their concerns. And in the House of Assembly, be able to articulate their views, their concerns, and push the agenda of the people forward. I think we have gone a long way where we are putting ourselves first, where we are putting our own interests first. We must return to the foundation where it is about country, where it is about people. People-centered drives your country, drives your economy, drives your nation. And I think that's where we need to get back to. If you look at what has happened over the last couple of years, 3.5 years, 4 years, then you would see we have gone off the path. And we have to get back the reputation of the BVI, where persons around the region, internationally and locally, can look at the BVI and say, we are proud. We are proud because we have leaders that have integrity, that have not just say accountability, but are accountable to people. People who understand that inspiration, not manipulation, but inspiration, it was what drives your country, what drives your community to excel and do better. And let us stop limiting the young people in their professional development. The traditional way of education is important, but it's also important to know that the arts are there. Different ways and means of earning a living are there. Let us take this cap off, or this lid off these Virgin Islands, and let the people of the Virgin Islands speak. Let the voice speak, and we'll be amazed and amused to see what can be done. But it must be from leaders who have integrity, who are able to speak and stand on principle, but who have a vision, who are able to be passionate, who are able to be disciplined about what they do for the people of these Virgin Islands.
Now, you did mention the last few years in the territory, and of course we all know what has transpired and the places landed the BVI in now, where there is a spotlight on transparency and good governance. Now, you touched on it in your previous response, but we just want to know, why should the people of the Virgin Islands trust you to deliver in those areas?
Because it's proven. It's in my track record. If you want to call it even more, if you want to go a little further, it's in my DNA. My belief is that if I am doing something contrary to what will benefit the people of these Virgin Islands, or anyone that sets themselves, or any entity that sets themselves in the way of the progress and development of the BVI people, that's a problem for me. And for me, I understand that this country gave me the platform to be where I am today. It gave many others that stood before me. I reflect on persons that stood before me, giants in the 2nd District community, persons like the Honorable Ivan Dawson, God rest his soul, the Honorable Lavity Stout, the greatest visionary that will be recalled in the history of the Virgin Islands, who cast this vision some 30 years ago. Those persons, the shoulders of Dr. Robert Matavius, I look and influence persons like my dad, Reverend Dr. Melvin Turnbull, and some of those persons who have created this pathway. So there is a road, be it narrow, that can get us to the pathway that prosperity will continue to be the order of the day. But sometimes it's easy for us to go off track and start to make things about ourselves. But I always have to reflect on the Bible. It says pride goes before a fall. So why should people trust me? It's just look at what I've been able to do over from 2015 to then again from the 2019 to this upcoming election. I've stood on principle. I've let my voice be heard, and I've spoken up against the grain and not to be proven right, but you have seen a number of things that I've been speaking about and making a fuss about and making the persons in the country be aware of. The reports that are coming out now have all proven that this is what I was saying all along. But it's not to be proven right. It is for us to get things in order so that no one from any place has to come and tell the people of the BVI, the leaders of the BVI, that we should be doing it. We know what we need to do. And if we do it, the territory will just rise and continue to rise to a place that we can all be proud of again.
Now, on the topic of delivery, what do you say to criticisms from persons who say that there are labor-related issues that have endured your leadership in the Ministry of Labor, especially when some of these issues are things you would have spoken against during your time in the opposition? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What do you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this ain't like you, know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I watching ball. I even watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, on the topic of delivery, what do you say to criticisms from persons who say that there are labor-related issues that have endured your leadership in the Ministry of Labor, especially when some of these issues are things you would have spoken against during your time in the opposition?
Well, here's the key. The time, 10 months, I believe it is, that I've had to be appointed as Minister of Labor, Natural Resources and Labor, it has been a time for growth. It has been a time for learning and understanding and development. And I believe we have been able to make some good strides in addressing some of the issues and concerns that persons have had with work permits, with getting their just simple communication factors done. We have a struggle that we're working through to get the positions filled so that we can go towards the online system to be able to keep the economy, because it's not just about labor. I don't just look at the staff, and I applaud the staff for their efforts and their contributions and the commitment, but it's not just about the staff. It is about how everything else is interconnected. How does labor affect the economy? When you look at the Ministry of Natural Resources and Labor, we deal with executive work permits, which are for the trust companies and the law firms and the different companies. And then you deal with the regular work permits, which go through a longer and more tedious process. But how does it affect the overall impact of the economy of the Virgin Islands from a small business? How is it that I'm holding a work permit or not being able to get it? What are the things that we can do to streamline this process so it is working effectively? Because ultimately, we're now looked at as the labor department, but the true name is supposed to be labor and workforce development. So the development aspect of it has to be materialized, where we have relationships with the employees. We have relationships with persons in the private sector, that we are forming partnerships to continue to build these sectors so that labor and the issues that you are hearing no longer become a challenge, but we're moving on to something that I know the positions that are needed. So we can speak to the Ministry of Education and we can speak to sports and see these are the positions that we need to be filled. So where our children in high school and in tertiary education at HLSEC, we know what we are in need of. and we build capacity, because that's one of the things I believe H.L. Stout spoke about. He wanted to ensure that our people were educated to be able to come back home and take the top positions. Now we have moved away from that. We have moved away from that vision, and it's time for us to return, because there is not a lack of bachelor's or master's or doctor's degree in this country. So now we need to give those persons, together with the persons, as I spoke about in the arts and the different forms of their creative lifestyles and entrepreneurship, give those persons the opportunity to be a part of the contribution to the development of this territory.
All right, now I'm going to quote you here in front of the House of Assembly. I mean, everybody heard you said, "I will not yield." And of course, that had a lot to do with you bringing across your points and standing on them as you defended your points in front of the House of Assembly. So how about you walk me through a time where you disagreed with a decision of the House of Assembly and how you went about it?
So you put that in my mind to see if I could find another example. It's important, though. It's important because I don't just oppose for the sake of opposing. I listen to the people of the Virgin Islands. I listen to the voice of the people in my constituency, even more specifically, because the things that affect them affect me and how we develop. And I believe if we're able to get out of this mindset of just looking at every 4 years of being reelected, because if we build the districts, you build the country. No matter which party is in, if you build the districts, you build the country. So I will give you an example. It was relating to the same topic. It is on the same, almost on the same topic. I will not yield. I was asking a question previously in the House of Assembly of why the former premier, who at that time I would in this, let's call him Goliath, took different ministry subjects that were assigned to different ministers and brought them under him. And just kept taking them, but no explanation, nobody saying anything, nobody. And I asked the question, and I was ridiculed and laughed at, and I persisted. And I persisted with my questions. And then when we got to other business, I brought it up again because it was something that was concerning to me. How can you have one individual responsible for all these things, trying to be the master of everything and then master none? Jack of all trades and the master of none. But then you realize as you develop that, well, if you're taking this and it deals with money, you're taking that one and it deals with money, and there's a minister who's answering questions in the House of Assembly that can tell you they don't know, or they are not aware, or it is not my responsibility because the premier, then who elected you? Didn't the people of the Virgin Islands elect you to have a voice? And I believe that's what is important. Persistency brought about that change. I follow a simple principle, which says current behavior times intolerable pain equals change. So sometimes we could just take pain and take struggles and take all the effects of that happened on April 28th of 2022 and things that led up to that we weren't saying anything. But current behavior times vision equals change. If you have a vision for this territory, if you have a vision for the people of this territory, as a leader, you must have a vision, a foresight of where you want the people to go. Because H.L.S. Stout said it best, but it's a scripture from the Bible in Proverbs. Where there's no vision, the people perish. My dad reversed it and he says, where there's no people, the vision will perish. So it has to work in tandem. And for me, being persistent, without persistency, there can't be change. Nothing can be affected if you're not persistent and consistent about it. So for me, going against the grain, that would be one example. There are many others, but that's the one because you triggered it in my mind. I brought it back to light.
All right, thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to move on to our next question that I would just ask plainly. Do you view the findings of the Commission of Inquiry report as a fair representation of what has transpired in the Virgin Islands in recent years?
That is an interesting question. And like an audit, I think it was to serve some purposes. So do I believe the Commissioner Inquiry report or the investigations were holistic, no, there were some areas that were completely missing, completely missed out. And some of them dealt with the responsibilities of the governor and of the deputy governor's office, but focused more on the responsibilities of the elected members and the public servants. But what did it show? It showed that our systems are broken. It shows that there are things that we need to be improved. It shows that the leaks and the cracks in those systems have been manipulated, and they haven't worked, and they have worked contrary to where we want to go. So it highlighted those things. Now, do I believe in just highlighting the wrongs that have been identified in the COI report? No, I believe you accept, you make a commitment to transform and change those, and then you build your BVI. But it cannot go without recognizing, realizing, and propelling to people where this BVI came from. We were left as a bird sanctuary. We were left to fend for ourselves. But over the last 70 years plus, look at what the BVI has been able to do. Leader in financial services, leader in tourism. You have persons educated from all walks of life. You have our natural resources and our beaches and everything that we have in this great nation. And most importantly, look at the human resource that we have in this country. We can stand up to any country around the world and be able to sit around those tables in terms of our leadership, in terms of our ability to articulate and to get our points across. So I believe it was important, it was necessary because it was called for. But I'm not going to just look at the negative. I have to balance that against some of the things that we have done well. And improve, when I improve on the things that have been highlighted and done wrong, then those now we continue to build a BVI, and we continue to build this mecca that I know and believe, and people believe that can be achieved through the people of the BVI.
Of course, as noted by the governor in his second quarterly report, there's been significant progress in the territory in terms of implementing the COI recommendations. Now, the next government, which will come from this election, will be tasked with building on that progress. How would you be of value to that team?
Well, I believe it is not just my voice. It is the ability to read, it is the ability to understand, it is the ability to articulate and discuss with my colleagues the pros and cons of what we're doing, how it will affect the people of the Virgin Islands. So because I have been here, because I was one of those that were chosen to sit in the room with the former UK Minister Millen when we were threatened with our constitution being suspended because of the effects of April 28 of the former premier being arrested and charged. Because the report of the COI came out and the things that we have now put in place to implement, I believe that I stand on that principle, and I stand on integral principles to move towards accountability, to move towards transparency, and continue to build on the good things that have been done in this country, on the examples that have been set by our forefathers and our foreparents, and those of us who have been there, who understand the importance of having people first and operating on building the BVI, not chasing money and chasing wealth, but building this BVI to a place that we can once again be proud of is important to me. So being there and having been there with the experience, having been there with the knowledge that I have, I believe is important to drive and continue to drive the efforts while challenging, don't get me wrong, while challenging some of the things that might be forced on us or pushed a certain way in a certain direction. We have to also stand on the fact that the BVI people are proud people. The BVI people are not crooks and thieves that is being perpetrated in some areas, in some corners. The BVI people are people that are proud. They are destined for greatness, and that's where we need to go. So my voice, my expertise of being there, my expertise in finance and in money management. I'm also an ordained minister, so that's why you hear a lot of jokes being made about me trying to be holier than thou. But again, it's not what you call, it's what you answer to. So I stand on those principles, not being perfect, but always being willing to contribute and pay a part what represents Team BVI. It is not about being power hungry. It is about being hungry for the power to be returned to the people of the British Virgin Islands.
Now, the governor would have also mentioned at the time of release of his second quarterly report that in addition to checking off the listed recommendations from the COI, the most important thing is to enact change in the territory. So in your view, having been part of the unity government, do you believe it's feasible that any one sitting government will be able to implement all 48 recommendations and enact the change that is expected to come from them?
I believe it's possible. I absolutely believe it's possible because the word impossible says impossible. So for the people of the BVI, knowing where we were and knowing where we could have been, it is possible to change. It's possible to change some of the cultures, some of the behaviors, some of the systems, evaluate them and address them so that when we go again, we were knocked down before. After 1991 with the Hurricane Hugo, we were knocked down again in 2017. We were knocked down with COVID. We were knocked down on April 28th and 29th. But if we get the right people, if we get integral leaders in place, we will be able to transform this BVI. It will not be comfortable, I must say. And I know this for a fact. It will not be comfortable, some of the things that we have grown accustomed to. But it will be necessary to effect the change that we must achieve to take us to the next level, so that it is not about me, it is not about you even, Jhaka. It's about those children that come after us, those children and their children that will come after us, so that we are preparing a pathway that they can follow. This is a blueprint, this is the roadmap of what we have gone through. And never forget in your history, but look at the examples that were set and build on those examples and diversify those examples so that we can continue to rise to higher heights.
Earlier on, when I asked about your professional career, you would have mentioned your interest in youth empowerment and working with young people.
Yes.
So as a elected representative, I mean, I try to stray away from using the word politician, but it is what it is. How are you ensuring that young people are engaged in the democratic process? That's my passion. Young people are my passion. I love two types of people. I love young people because they tell you the truth. And I love my golden gems, my seniors, because they nurture you. So I use an example that I won't use here, but you can glean knowledge from the seniors and you can gain wisdom from them. And the truth that you get from young people, you see, people like you and my age, we're not that truthful. Some of us will look each other in the face and, it's okay. But young people tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it. And that's why I believe, for me, getting involved. So every time you hear me speak in the House of Assembly, I'm encouraging a young person. I'm encouraging persons like Khalil Donovan and Bunchy Whitley. I'm encouraging persons like Mr. KJ Headley and Cletus Matavius. I'm encouraging persons that are inspirational and making this calculated risk into business. That they're taking a risk on themselves, our athletes, our professionals. I encourage my daughter and her friends. There's no limit to what can be done, because the possibilities that are out there, the world is not just on this rock that we call BVI, or these little islands that we have as BVI. The world is out there to be explored, and the internet creates that pathway. So if we take the time to listen to the ideas and listen to the thoughts and listen to some of the visions that our young people have, it can only help us propel. So my involvement with young people is hearing the truth. Hearing, Mitch, I don't like what you're doing, and I think some of you guys are not doing nonsense. Okay, let me evaluate, Mitch. Let me do a fact check. I am my hardest critic, so let me just reevaluate myself and then come back to see. The next time I see you, can you say that I addressed something you said? And most times you hear, Mitch, I didn't even know you were listening to me, because that's how we build. So it is not about me being puffed up or thinking, oh, you're elected for 2 terms or whatever the case may be. I am not higher than the people that I represent. In order for me to represent people, I have to be a servant leader. Okay. So now we turn to some issues that are topical right now and are likely to remain topical beyond the general election. So first, we'd like to know, what is your take on same-sex marriage? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually...
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites. It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.
Rashford made it. Manchester United have come from behind to lead.
At home or on the go, watch CCT Live. Download our app and carry your favorite TV shows, news, or live sports anywhere you go. Visit cctbvi.com/live, select your package, and tune in.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. What is your take on same-sex marriage?
I'm glad you asked that question because it was asked before in another interview. My personal take on same-sex marriage is that I follow the biblical principles that marriage is between a man and a woman. That's what I believe. That's what I live. My wife and I, as I said, been married for 16 years. I have a beautiful daughter, baby girl, Marietta Turnbull. My dad and my mom has been married for some 44 years. So I follow those principles. That's what I believe. Now, if you ask me my position is still what I believe. The choice that people make, God is the ultimate choice of what would happen and how it would happen. But what I believe is what I believe, and that's what I stand on. People have the choice to do what they do because every choice that we make has both a positive and negative consequence. So my position is just that, and I stand firmly on that.
Now, in the interest of democracy, there's been a discussion going on whether the territory should utilize its first referendum on the issue of same-sex marriage. Proceeding into the next administration, would you encourage that a referendum be held in this light?
What I would encourage is for people to have the conversation. I know, for example, very recently, the Christian Council, the BVI Christian Council, has gotten together and started conversations on this issue. I know, for example, in Cayman, Bermuda, and all over the U.S. and all over the world, this is a topic that has been coming on for a long time. So I believe what is important is to hear the views of the BVI people. My views and my personal beliefs won't change. But we also have to understand that in this BVI, the voice of the people has to carry. So the churches are there, the community groups are there, the government has a role to play. All of us have a role to play in this overall discussion. At the end of the day, we have to decide what is best for the people of the BVI. What are our cultures? What is our history? What were we founded on? Because you cannot continue to build a house and not realize that you're going away from the foundation. Because if I'm building the house away from the foundation, remember where we started. Remember where we came from. Remember what got us to where we got to. Sometimes we get caught up in wanting to follow different facets and different things of the world. But if you remember your foundation, I think it would help you go and grow further.
Now, we've spoken a lot about young people. We've spoken a lot about the future. I'd like to know where you see the BVI in the next 5-10 years.
Well, I see the BVI in the next 5 years, and this question excites me. Endless possibilities. I see tourism. I represent the mecca of tourism here in Tortola side and even on the island of Just Van Dyke on the north side of the BVI. You have Virgin Quarter. So the mecca of tourism will continue to thrive. But we must do the investments. I've been speaking a lot with Dr. Georges from HLSCC, a young professional director and president of the college who has many ideas We need to develop our tourism industry. Go back to the point where persons like my uncles and persons from the village that I grew up in, King Garden Bay and Bruce Bay, where they went to Caneel Bay and built and understand what it meant to serve, what it meant to be in this sector. So our tourism, our taxi drivers, you see a lot of them now posting videos on Facebook. Continue to work with the structures and the systems that we have through BVI Tourist Board. Tourism can be developed. Financial services, even though they continue to be attacked, that has been a pioneering pillar of the economy here in the BVI. So what can we do? Continue to diversify our financial services. But businesses and entrepreneurship, we are surrounded by 200 nautical miles of water in the BVI. More water than we have land mass if you were to flatten out this entire BVI. What are we doing with the water? What are we doing in terms of our fishing? What are we doing in terms of our excursion? These are things that we have to develop. Our farming and fishing, look at the lands. Every time it rains, it's completely green. So we have to get serious about the things we want to do, but we have to involve our people. It is not just about me being a representative or having a premier or having a deputy premier, but involve the people that they say, this is what we need to do. And this is the research I have, and pull off that information and let's chart a way from, again, a vision with the passion of the people, with the ability to be disciplined in executing it, and just make the decision that is in the right interest of the people. So for the next 5 years, I see the BVI once again thriving. I see the people of BVI happy. I see them motivated, and our young people especially are excited to go out into the world and become whoever they want to be, while contributing and building and passing the baton to the next generation. I look at it. My dad right now, who has served in ministry for some 48 years, from the time he was 17 years old in high school. He's now passing the baton to my younger brother, Dr. Michael A. Turnbull, in ministry to be the senior pastor. My uncle, Bishop John Klein, did the same thing, and he passed the baton to his son after 30 years of ministry, Pastor Jovan Klein. There needs to be a passing of the mantle. So when you look at persons like Dr. Robert Matavius, when you look at leaders that have paved the way, where you look in the construction industry, where you look in the business industry, where you look in the law firms, that we're passing the baton to the next generation, so that it is not about a handout, but we're giving them a hand up, so that when they stand, we all are standing together. Because in this BVI, as we've seen after Irma, after Maria, after COVID, no matter the difficulties, no matter the challenges, when we are strongest is when we are together. And that's why I represent and I stand again with this blue team, Progressive Virgin Islands movement, that understands that integrity matters, that understands that doing the right thing counts for something, and understands that your silence in the midst of chaos, when you see it and say nothing, that means you are part of it. But we understand, through the leadership of our chairman and leader, Mr. Ronnie W. Skelton, who has a track record, who has not been investigated, who has not gone off the deep end in any way, who has not even been questioned in the COI for any mismanagement of funds, because you've seen what have happened. Now we are a team that are looking to represent this BVI and put us on a part that we can all hold our heads up. And people all around the world and in the region and our young men and young women can look at us and say, these are a bunch of people that we can trust. So that's what I see in the BVI for the next 5 years.
Now, Honorable Turnbull, you are not new to this program. Of course, you would have been interviewed by my colleague previously on Just for the Record,
yes,
ahead of the 2019 elections. And what stood with me from your interview is that you mentioned it was a very important time in the BVI. Now, living in the BVI is like living in modern day history, because it's always a very important time in the BVI. Things are moving quickly and history is made every day. Why in this general election, in this period of time, do you believe that your representation is what the people need right now?
President Barack Obama spoke about the urgency of now. And in my youth mentorship training and teaching, I speak of now, defined as 0 to 5 seconds. If I combine that with the biblical idea and principle, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, is in a now. So what it happens now. Why is this time important now? Because our future depends on it. Because our lives depend on it. Because the livelihoods of this Virgin Islands, the fabric, the blood, the sweat, the tears of our ancestors are calling for it. So it is important now because we have been knocked down, because we have been trampled on, because we have put ourselves in a lot of these positions. It's important now for people like myself to continue to stand and let my voice be heard, let my representation be felt. Because if I don't stand, then I would have failed the people of the Virgin Islands. I would have failed the people of the 2nd District. I would have failed those that came before me and those that stood before me on integrity and on these principled approaches. So why is it important now? Because everything in this Virgin Islands is calling for leaders with integrity, calling for leaders who are not filled with the gift of gab. But when you look at them, they're doing what they say. You look at their track record and their history, it exemplifies that this is somebody that I can trust. And if you can trust me, for example, with your money, if you can trust me with your children, with working with you, if you can trust me to represent you and be the voice against the grain and speaking up when I was the only one standing, even though I was not alone, then I believe you can trust me to take us a little further so that we can see this place that I saw and I continue to see and that I heard about, where the BVI is some place that people want to come to, that people are proud of and people are envious of. But we must also protect what we have. We must promote it and ensure that we are providing for the next generation.
Powerful words from you right there, Honorable Turnbull. Just thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for answering all my questions. I really do hope that members of the public find this information valuable to their experience in the upcoming general election. Again, I am Jhaka Wooding, and this has been Just for the Record.
Thank you, Jhaka.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Lonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites. It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.